violence is not happening here. It says a lot for this community. But police reform and how municipalities are dealing with their police forces throughout the area. Something the governor is mandating to have done by springtime of next year. There is a program underway, a committee underway here. Marques Phillips is on that committee. He's on the line right now. Good morning, Marques.
Hey, what's up, Bill? How you guys doing?
Good. So, first off, how do we get to where they are in Rochester? So you have a black police chief, others that are minorities that work on that police force. Several have stepped down because of the way they say this is being politicized. What are your thoughts on what you witnessed just down the thruway in Rochester?
My thoughts are, I just think it's sad. It's just sad all the way around. It's one of those issues that across the country, people, you're dealing with decades of hurt feelings and mistreatment and misunderstanding, and there are people that are frustrated because you do as much as you can. You try to do things the right way. Sometimes people don't try to do things the right way. And it's just a pressure cooker. And like I said, you're dealing with people's lives. And anytime people's lives are at stake, there's a ton of pressure, a ton of responsibility, and a ton of people, when your hearts and feelings are involved in something like this, the passions run high.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're seeing going on over there.
So, and I think that at the very least, we'd like to see situations where, for instance, this guy in Rochester running down the street naked. Something's going on there, whether it's drugs or it's mental illness. Something is going on. The hood is put over. They're saying he's claiming that he has COVID-19 and he's spitting, so they prevent that. And at some point, the guy walks away and he was in police custody and he's no longer alive. That is a problem. There's no two ways to look at that, right?
Well, yeah, and but like I said, the guy, it seems like he had some mental health issues, and you're talking about somebody that's not coming home to his family,
right,
and your kid dies or your community member dies, and you see it on top of all the rhetoric that's going on, all the videos that are going on. I think sometimes it can feel frustrating. It can feel like that this stuff is inevitable, and I think what you got to say is the things and the confrontations with police will happen, but you don't ever want to get it to a point where you feel like it's inevitable, like it's gonna happen.
Right.
You have to try to set a culture where it doesn't happen, because it's sad. Every death is a tragedy.
What are the conversations? So explain what it is, what the governor has mandated, and what you're involved with here.
So here in Utica, we pulled together a police reform advisory committee, and the governor has mandated that the mayor put together police reform advisory committee. Now, some of the slots on the committee are positions that the governor required be on there. So you got the mayor, the police chief. He wants religious leaders, nonprofit leaders, people in the community that are stakeholders, as well as, this gets submitted to the state office of budget. So it makes sense to have the budget director there. The district attorney's office has to be there. The public defender's office has to be there. So we got a group of 18 people that have been meeting to try to come up with a way to see where our police department can improve, and how we can do things better to police better. Because, policing is one of these things that's been studied and been redone, and there's a lot of things in Utica that have happened that we're proud of, but it's one of those things that it does take a new look because there's a new time. The nature of the crimes are different. We're trying to evolve as a society. So there's nothing wrong with sitting around at the table and saying, "Hey guys,
how do we make it
do better?
How do we make it
How
better?
do we be first? How do we be more innovative? And how do we avoid these types of incidents?"
And would you agree we're in a much different place and a much better place here in this area?
Well, it can all turn on a dime. I think in this area, our police department, we're fortunate for a lot of things. We do have diversity. We're not as big a city, so a lot of people know each other. And we're trying to lift this ball together. And I also think, here our police have done a lot right. So I don't want to let that go unsaid. I mean, we're one of the first in the state to tape interrogations years ago, to tape every interrogation. One of the first in the state to wear body cameras. Came the first in the state, and I think one of the first in the country to release our personnel records completely online. So you can see if an officer has had incidents in his record. You can see what training he's received, how long he's been in the force. So if you have an interaction with an officer, you can go look up what he does online. Our police signed the Black Lives Matter wall, marched with Black Lives Matter protesters. We set up a community policing division. So, police grill hot dogs at events, and they have shop with a cop, adopt a cop, and we're developing a police athletic league. So I think our police, when somebody tries to do the right thing, you have to give them credit for the things they do right. That doesn't mean you don't blame them for the things they do wrong, but sometimes when somebody's trying to be an ally, you have to take yes for an answer.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, are there cases that you need to review or policies that have been identified that this committee would be reviewing and saying, we like this, we want to alter it? What's your starting point? I just feel like every city was kind of told, you need to change something, go change something, find something to change. What do you see as your goal that you need to actually work on?
Well, the governor did talk about specific areas of policing that he wants you to look at. And there's how are you doing with militarization with the police? How are you dealing with mental health issues, use of force, police officer reviews, disciplinary reviews, transparency? Are you talking with the community? So he did outline a bunch of things that he wants the community to look at, but it's hard. So the first thing the committee has to do is learn what the police policies are. Mm-hmm. And then once they learn what the police policies are, they can sort of propose their ideas. And I give everybody credit. They're doing due research. They're looking around the country and saying, okay, what have these people been doing to do better? But you look for areas where you can be better, and everybody knows. I mean, a lot of the people that are on the committee are people that have been affected by law enforcement. They're people whose families have been put in jail, right? Or people that they love have been a victim of gun violence. We've been to, we had a town hall last fall, and then this February we had the Solution Summit around this stuff. So I think that everybody kind of has a good grasp of where the choke points are, and it's just a matter of sitting down and talking with the police and talking with the people in the committee and seeing if we can alleviate some of those things.
Any conversation about having a citizen panel, basically, that would review complaints? How is it? Do you know how it's currently handled now? And would this committee exist beyond April of next year?
We don't know yet. We haven't gotten to the part where you review complaints. So let me step back. So the idea is we put all of the categories the governor gave into 4 broad categories. We're just on the first one right now. And the idea is to do a draft report. And then you do a draft report, that's when you go to public, because now the public has a jumping off point. Hey, I don't like what you did here. Hey, there's nothing in this about here. This is too weak. This is too strong. It might come from the other side. You're not protecting the police. So you have to have on paper something that you're going to show people and say, okay, these are our ideas. What do you think? Right. And then you go back and you change the ideas. And I think when you get to police review and accountability, that's one of the elephants in the room. That's one of the choke points. How are you going to be held accountable? And the police have concerns where, we want to be reviewed by people that kind of know our policies and what's going on.
Well, I was going to bring that up because we had somebody pipe in last hour saying, why don't they shoot, instead of shooting to kill, why not shoot to injure and basically disable the threat? And the problem with that is if you're in a high intensity situation where someone is pointing a gun at you, the police officer, the last thing you're going to be thinking about is how do I shoot them in the leg? You're thinking, how do I stop this person from being able to shoot me or other people? And I think that you kind of have to understand police policy a little bit versus the rest of us that are just we don't necessarily understand what it's like to be
quarterbacking.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know what it's like to be in that scenario.
Well, right, and I think that's why a lot of the people on this panel, and I could name them, have some sort of experience, professional experience, life experience, having shown an interest in this issue and having dealt with stuff like this.
Yeah.
And you know, like a good example is what Jeff said. You know, police review. What's going on now? Right now, if it's disciplinary, it's potentially criminal. It goes to the district attorney's office. That's what we do right now. So that's a third party review. The question is, okay, can you sharpen that? Is there somebody other than the district attorney? What if it's not potentially criminal? Because to your point, Bill, a lot of people don't know police policy. But even if so, say you didn't shoot somebody to kill and you shot him in the leg. I mean, is that really going to make it better if it wasn't a good shoot in the first place?
Right.
So how do you sharpen this blade? I mean, it's one of those impossible situations, and I give credit to the people on the panel because they're all passionate about the issue. The meetings are filled with passion, but it's tough to put yourself out there. You know, I work for the city. I've been on media for a while. I'm used to kind of being in the public eye, but some of these people aren't. And to come out here and to take this kind of scrutiny, and you know one side or the other is going to be dissatisfied with whatever you do. I give them credit for putting themselves out there because they believe in the issue.
Can you? I hope I'm not overstepping here, but you told me a story once about how you were when you were a reporter at the OD. You were cashing your check at the bank, and somebody came in to rob the bank. And I don't want to mention the person that was robbing the bank, but you were the lone black guy in the bank, and
you're right. And he wasn't robbing the bank, right?
Well, right. I mean, it was a note that basically said, "Give me all your money," and it was a special situation. So, but when the button was hit and police show up, there's Marques standing in the lobby of the bank, and of course, you must be the guy.
Right, and they put me on the ground, and that's not the only time that I feel like I was mistreated by police, and definitely somebody I love was mistreated by the police. But then you see the other side of it, and you know, my uncle was shot in the head when I was 5 years old. I still remember it. One of my best friends was killed when I was 19 years old, and there's been a lot of deaths and arrests and police incidents in between. And the people on the panel have had similar experiences. So I think it makes sense to talk to people that feel impacted by this issue. And because you have firsthand experience and you got so much at stake. You have children, you have people that you love. And my uncle was a cop, and a lot of people I love have been on the other side of law enforcement. Both of my parents worked in the prison system. Mm-hmm. So trying to balance all of those things, and all we want is a community that feels safe and like we're rowing in the same direction. And then, like I said, sometimes it feels like an impossible lift, but all I have been asking people is give us your input. And let's try to work together. You can't not let anything be good enough for you.
Yeah. So you feel that this is something that's you feel progress is going to come out of this?
Oh, when we get done, the police department will be better. I don't know if you know there will be better things going on in our police department than there are now. That doesn't mean they're not doing a good job, but anybody could get better. Mm-hmm. And the things that we're going to do, we hope, will enhance policing. So I absolutely think progress can come out of it. I just hope we get there, and I hope we get there together, because it's such a divisive issue, and it's tough when you're in my position, right? Because I'm a neighborhood kid, came up, work hard to get at the table, you're finally at a table, and people question your sincerity, they question your motives, and you just hope that our community stays together enough to want to solve these problems without ripping each other apart.
Yep. Well, imagine what what they're going through right now in Rochester and other places around the country where this has been really a terrible issue over the last 6 months, and marching in the streets and vandalism and looting. Imagine what they're going through if what you're going through is very stressful in a community that hasn't seen any of that violence.
Well, yeah, it's listen, I give the impression that it's very stressful. Let me say, they're going through something way worse than us.
Yep.
My call is just to let everybody know that they can be part of the process. This is something we have to live together. But what they're going through isn't anything like we're going through. I think some of that is because we've tried to do the right things as a police department. But it's sometimes in a year you go, there's not a bunch of shootings, and it's because of a lot of good policing, and some of it is just luck. Some of it is just, hey, this hasn't happened here.
Yep.
So you're always hedging because you don't know what the next thing around the corner is going to be. You're just hoping that you put in the work, the discipline, and sort of the love that you can handle whatever comes your way. And the people of Rochester, I feel for them, and not the police, not the government, just the people of Rochester.
Right.
Because it's hectic right now, and I get it. There's people in my neighborhood or people that I know that think the system is never going to work for them, and think that everything they're getting is happy talk, and they get a rage inside of them when something like this happens, and they tell you, look, I don't see how this works, and they're just angry.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you want to be careful to take everybody's feelings into account, and to just try to find the best middle you can find. And I think our police have been proactive, and I think our city is progressive, and I think people are trying.
Marques Phillips, I appreciate it. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this committee, and as you see a community and a police force working together to make things better. That's a positive right to begin with. So.
Yeah, I do want to say that. I consider it a positive that our police are at the table. We've been criticized somewhat for that, but there's communities where the police won't sit down, right? You know, Rochester, the police chief just retired. Like, I don't want to have any more of that. The fact that they're there and they're listening to people tell them what they're doing wrong, there's police departments across the country that I've seen that have more ego than that. And I do want to commend our officers for coming, sitting down, and listening to people.